Hello everyone, today is day 9 of learning advanced prototyping, and in this video I'm gonna teach you how to create crazy button animations. So let's get started. First, color popping transition, then this physical button pressing animation. Third and fourth is text moving inside the button. Fourth one is color filling inside the button, and the last one is button popping animation. Okay, for the first button, take a text. Now press Shift A to add it to a auto layout. Now from the right panel, you can give it some padding if you want. Also, give it some color. For the initial state, I'm keeping it white. Now select your frame and give it some corner radius. Now press O to add a circle, reduce its size, and add it to your frame. Now you'll see the circle will adjust to the frame as it is in the auto layout. So from here you have to press this icon which says ignore auto layout. Now drag your circle. Make sure your circle is inside the frame, but we don't want it to show on the frame. So select the frame and press clip content to hide the circle. Now select your frame and press Ctrl D to duplicate. Now give your frames a name so that you are able to recognize the states. So now drag drag to select both the buttons, and from here select create component set. Now select the circle from the final button and increase its size. Increase it to the level that it fills the whole circle. Now select your text and give it some color. Now you will be able to notice that the text is not visible. So to make it visible, select the text from the left panel and right click and put it to bring to front. And now give a color to your circle as well. Whatever color you want your transition to be, give it that. Now only last step is left, which is adding the interaction. So switch to prototype mode and connect both the buttons. Keep the interaction on click, change to final state, and animation to be smart animate to ease in and out 500 millisecond. Now take a frame and here from the assets panel in the left, select your button, insert instance. So I'll increase the size of the frame so that every button I create will be visible to you. Now select the frame and hit run. Now when you'll click this button, you will be able to notice this transition. If you want the transition to be on hover, so you can simply and keep the interaction on while hovering. So now when you'll add your button to a frame, you'll be able to notice a smooth button transition while you hover to the button. Okay, so now to create a physical button animation, you have to put a text. Press Shift A to add auto layout, and same just like before, add padding. Give it a color, give it a radius, and now you have to give it a effect which is drop shadow, and change its opacity to 100% and blur to 0. And now I'll keep the y-axis to 6 and x to 3. And now, very important step, take another frame and add on top of it. Now make sure this button is inside the new frame and also that its edges are touching the frame. Now reduce the size of the frame to the size till the shadow. Now select the outer frame and give it a transparent color by changing the opacity to 0. Now press Ctrl D to duplicate your first button. Rename both the buttons. And now select the inner frame, which is the button, and hide the shadow. Now you can see there is no shadow in the second one. Now select this option to align the button. Now drag and select both the buttons, and from here select Create Component Set. Similarly, to add interaction, switch to prototype mode and you have to connect both the buttons. Keep the interaction on while hovering. Change to your second state, which is pressed, and we don't want to put it on Smart Animate this time, we can keep it instant. So now, when you'll see in the assets panel, your second component is created. Now import your second component onto your frame and hit run to see. Now when you'll hover on the button, you will be able to notice a animation which feels like you're when you manually press a button. Okay guys, so let's come on to our third button animation. So for that, take a text. Now select the text and right click on it and do frame selection. Now give your frame some height and width and give your frame some color. Also change the color of your text. Now provide radius. So now what you have to do is select your text, and from here in the typography section in the right panel, select this icon and switch the vertical trim to this. Now what you have to do is select your text and press Ctrl D to duplicate. Now drag your text below the first text and select both by pressing Shift and right click and then select frame selection. Now both of these texts are inside one frame. You can check this from the left panel. Now press Shift A to add auto layout. Now decrease the size of your frame so that your frame is decreased to the size of what your first text is. Now click on this checkbox to make clip content. Now, when you'll select this text, you will be able to notice that both of your text are aligned below each other, but the second text is not visible as it is clipped. Now, duplicate your first button by pressing Ctrl D and now rename those buttons. Initial, or maybe left, and here we'll name it right. Now what you have to do is select your text and from here select the position to align left. And here you have to select your second button, select your second text from the second button and press on this icon which says right align. Now drag to select both the buttons and from here put it to create component set. Now you just have to add the interaction. So switch to prototype mode and connect both the buttons. Put the trigger put the trigger on while hovering, change to right and then put the animation on smart animate, ease in and out. Keep the duration as 500 milliseconds. Now in your frame from the assets panel you will be able to notice that your component is created. Now click on it and insert instance. Select your frame and hit run. When you'll hover your cursor, you will be able to notice a smooth right and left text shift. Similarly, if you want your text to move up and down or diagonal or vertical, any uh, in any direction, you just have to simply duplicate your component. Let me change the name of the component to component 3 and this one is 4. So what you have to simply do is select your text from the fourth component, align it to the center and here from here to the top, and from the second button select it to the center and then bottom align. So this is how you make your text move from one direction to another inside the button. Okay, so the next up we have filling button transition. So for that, write a text, then press Shift A to add auto layout, and then give some padding for the width and height. Okay, then you have to fill it. We are filling it now, but then later we'll like make it transparent. So from the shapes you need to add a rectangle. Make sure the rectangle is of the width of the button. Now add it to your frame. Switch to ignore layout and now place it uh, at the bottom of your button. Change its color and now duplicate this frame by pressing Ctrl D. And now increase the height of your rectangle to that of the button. and from here select the text and change the color to white so that your text is visible. So it is not visible because it is beneath that layer, so bring it to the top. Now make sure your both of the buttons are selected to clip content. So now switch the toggle visibility to 0 so that it is transparent. Now select both of your buttons and set it to create component set. Now switch to prototype mode and connect both the buttons and keep the interaction to while hovering. Change to the next frame and smart animate to ease in and out. Now this is your sixth, no, this is your fifth component. Now from the assets panel, import your fifth component into your frame, and then you just have to hit run to see your transition. So here's how you create a filling button transition. Okay, so next up we have a bouncy button effect. So for that, take a text, press Shift A for auto layout, adjust the size of the button, then fill your button, give it corner radius, and now hide the color. Now select this frame and press Ctrl D to duplicate. And now for the second button, you have to give it a stroke. I'll keep the size of the stroke to 1.5. And now select both the buttons and make it a component set. Now switch to prototype mode and connect both of these buttons and keep the interaction on while hovering. Change to the second button and put the animation to smart animate. Select bouncy and keep the transition to 800 millisecond. Now from the assets panel, import your component and insert. Now hit run. As you can notice, this button is showing the stroke, but it is not giving the bouncy effect. It is because you haven't increased the size of the second button. Select your second button and press K and increase the size of the second button. Make sure it is in the center and now play. So now you'll be able to notice this smooth popping up transition of the button. So that was it for today guys. Hope you liked the video, and if you've learned something from it, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. Till then, bye bye.